I mentioned that this Shabbat, which precedes Tisha B'Av, is given a special name, Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat of vision. And again, I've been wondering, how can we find our way to vision on this Shabbat when the horizon seems so difficult to grasp, when we worry whether or not the world leaders have clear vision? Do they have strategy? How can we see into the future when it seems all there is wonder and worry? A congregant told me this week that her whole life she's been a nail biter, and that recently she has been biting her nails again. And so she's decided that it will be an act of defiance to get a manicure. Another example of a way to vision, even in a time when vision is hard to come by. We are planning for the fall holidays, as you can imagine. And we think about Shmini Atzeret Simchat Torah, which could be forever ruined, could be forever taken away from us. But it is a festival, and it is a day for singing and dancing. And so we've decided, with the help of Jody Bager, a very talented textile artist in the congregation, to create a new white Torah mantle that we will use each year just at that time. And it's designed with the words from Kohelet, which we read during Sukkot, during the fall festivals, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And also stitched into the fabric is the slogan that has come out of the survivors of the Nova Festival: "We will dance again." And so we will take this beautiful new Torah scroll in our arms with its beautiful mantle, and we will dance again. And we will reclaim the festivity of that holy day. And Jody says she is praying with every stitch. There'll be more to say about this beautiful mantle in the coming weeks and months. In Israel, of course, our family and friends are doing their best to stick to their routines, to stay close to homes, to always be aware of where the shelter is, because they do not know when the sirens will sound. People are sleeping in their clothes. They are instructed to stock up on water and groceries, enough to last 2 weeks. And there is a dark humor that's taking hold among Israelis. They say, "See you tomorrow. Unless there will be no Israel tomorrow, then I guess I won't be seeing you tomorrow." So now's the time to reach out to all of our friends and family in Israel again, even long ago acquaintances that we think they may have forgotten all about us. Now's the time. Find the number, find the address, reach out and let them know that we are with them. I know we did that in the early days of the aftermath of October 7th. It's time to do it again because they are tired and they need our reinforcements. In 1939, there was a war of words, a fierce debate between two pre-state poets, two pre-state Israel giants of poetry, Natan Alterman and Leah Goldberg. What was their great divide, their great public debate? They agreed that the purpose of poetry was to find greater vision in times of war, but how? Alterman wrote poems of war and mission, conviction and courage, service and sacrifice. On Yom HaZikaron, we read his Magash HaKesef, the silver platter, for example. Alterman wrote a poem every week to be printed in the newspaper. He wrote to honor the fallen soldiers and to strengthen the families of the fallen. He believed poetry must always be timely and immediately relevant. Poetry must speak to the moment and to help us see our harsh reality for what it is. Goldberg, on the other hand, believed that poetry should be timeless and about lofty aims and ideals, which are just as real as war, but do not change with the news of the day. She believed poetry must help us to see who we truly are, which is much more than what we are in a time of war, which is much more than what worry can do to us. When asked what is the role of a poet during a time of war, Leah Goldberg answered in 1939, "It is not only permitted for a poet to write a love poem in times of war, but a necessity. Because even in times of war, the value of love is greater than the value of murder. It is not only a right for a poet in the days of horror to sing a song to nature, to the blooming trees, to children who know how to laugh, but it is a duty. The duty to remind a human being that he is still a human being, that there exists in the world those simple and eternal values that make life more precious. To remind a person that at every time and every hour, the time has not yet been missed to return to being human. Because as long as poetry loves humanity in this land and the life that is in it, it is worthwhile and appropriate for a person, for God, to love them, to appreciate them, to watch over and protect them." So if Natan Alterman claims that poetry is to see with eyes open the harshness of the real world we must confront, the real world that we must walk through, and the human capacity to rise up courageously to face it and to fight it when necessary, and if Leah Goldberg claims that poetry is to see with eyes open the enduring virtues of the human spirit that will survive any human assault, to see our capacity for love in times of war, then the Hasidic masters would claim that Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat of vision, is when we are granted a vision of Jerusalem restored. That is, Shabbat Chazon is when we can see with clarity, when we can see in our mind's eye, when we can see right at the heart of our prayers, the metaphorical third temple, a time when exile is over for everyone, when no one experiences physical or spiritual displacement and everyone has a place to call home. It's essential that we cultivate in ourselves and in one another the capacity to envision a different reality altogether. Shabbat Chazon demands it of us. They say you cannot be what you cannot see. You've heard that. It's also true that we cannot become what we cannot imagine. So on this Shabbat Chazon, let us lift our eyes up in search of the long view. Let us see, as Natan Alterman says, the reality of those, God bless them, who will defend us. And let us see, as Goldberg says, the reality of those who have the capacity to love enduringly. And let us see, as the Hasidic masters say, what can yet be born? The hatred that we know here and the rockets that are known well there, they are very real, all of it. But so are our prayers very real. So on this Shabbat Chazon, let us redouble our capacity to pray. Amen.